Gaming's Andrew Holder. Thank you for joining me, Andrew.
Yeah, no problem, man.
So this is an idea I wanted to do for a long time with a newer player, and having a newer content creator just turned out to be even better. And I really enjoyed the video that I did over on your channel.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It got a lot of good traction. Some people actually, we're going to talk about me being in Omaha a little bit later, but some people in Omaha, like who had long-term players, told me how much they enjoyed it too. So that was really cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I think one of the things that a lot of old heads are really interested in is the newer player reactions, right? Like, what do people who have never experienced our game before think about certain cards and things like that? So I had a lot of fun evaluating our first impressions versus the reality.
Yeah, what actually ended up happening in the sets and like what became true.
Yeah. And so today I wanted to ask you, what card are you most excited for from set 2 from Crimson Rampage?
So my favorite, or the card I'm most excited for, is Forcing Surrender from Bakugo's kit, the 1 diff, 2 low block. The response is when you play a combo, you can discard a rival momentum. I just want it for the enhance, which is to flip and discard a non-attack card from your card pool. Because I think with Manly Passionate Guy, you get to play a more like an Earth deck that's super defensive and is blocking with not attack cards. So, and then building down foundations, you get to play Ready, Get, Set, Go, which has a +1 high block, which Earth didn't have a ton of. You had like Hardened Jab, and now you don't have to play that card. If you want to play like the Ready, Get, Set, Go meme deck with the action, you can block with it, discard it with Forcing Surrender. And then it has a low block, which Earth's best low blocks were on attacks before. And now you get to like block with them and discard them, or block with them and build them with Manly Passionate Guy. So I'm like super excited to play an obnoxious Earth deck.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the amount of block clearing Earth has now. I didn't think about combining it with Manly Passionate Guy at all, which is weird because my favorite things in the game are blocking attacks and clearing my card pool.
Yeah, you get to do a lot of really cool things where you're like, especially now that you have like a bunch of action. Like the action, I don't think Ready, Get, Set, Go is like an amazing card, but I think in some of these 5 and 6 hand Earth decks, like sometimes I'm probably gonna end up playing 2 or 3 to start in those decks, and it's got a +1 high block and it draws a card in those 5 and 6 handers if I needed to. But that's like the main reason. I can't wait to like play like Apathetic and Super Regeneration and Internship with Best Genist and a bunch of new cards inside the same shell.
Yeah, yeah. Earth had a pretty good kit from set 1. It'll be cool to see. It's cool to see blocking get rewarded, but when I first saw this card, it was one of the missing pieces, and I think there might still be one piece left to acquire. But I have this Gremlin aggro Toga deck. I'm calling it the Draw Your Whole Deck Toga deck right now, and it needs. So the premise is that you play Crow and Frog to ignore progressive, and then you play Alleyway Ambush at the end. And it has a bunch of actions in the middle to let you do it. So we play Binding Cloth Capture on a 3 difficulty. And it's missing like one attack somewhere in the middle, but Forcing Surrender was huge because I play Price for Peace to dig through a whole new hand. Because again, we're trying to play everything. We're trying to go one turn. And so Forcing Surrender allowed me to sequence a little bit better by discarding it from my card pool. And it was really strong once they previewed, I think it's Go for the Win, the action that gives +2 speed when your opponent passes enhance.
Yeah. If they pass it enhance.
Yeah, if they have no enhances at all, you can just be like, all right, I'll give this +2 speed, and then on my enhance, I clear it from the card pool.
Yeah.
So this
that's
card,
actually pretty sweet.
yeah, so this card has a lot of uses left to be discovered.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm very stoked to play with it. Like, in just there's a variety of decks that I have built on UVS Ultra that I have hidden still because I'm like planning on making a bunch of videos for set 2, and I'm most excited about some of the Earth decks that I've made. So, what was your card, Sam? What are you most excited about from set 2?
So a lot of people who know me or were paying attention in the Discord when it happened will probably already know that my favorite card was Face Shield. I I do think it's a little reductionist to have the card be an omni block. The idea that you block anything and take no damage. I understand that is it's kind of boring. There's no real hoops to jump through, but it has added spice of also flipping the attack. So it ruins combos, it makes Crow and Frog count towards progressive, and the fact that it's not just an omni block is really exciting to me. The fact that it pairs with a throw that kind of gives my opponent like two bad options is really appealing to me. The fact that it also messes with stun attacks, like it can be like your opponent gives an attack stun, and you're not going to get to use this anyway, so you might as well blow it up. So it's got more than one use, which is really important, I think, in this game, not just having one mode.
I do really like it. I also think it's funny that like if you have to build them, it kind of isn't awful against a lot of what's seeing play already, like indiscriminate shocks and like jolts and stuff. I think those cards will continue seeing play in set 2. So if you have to build this card, it's not the end of the world. It's not great into every matchup. But like when you have to mulligan a bunch and then you're like, I need to build at least 4 foundations and you just have to build a face shield.
Mm-hmm.
It like has added benefit. And I think it's a sick card. I love blocking. Like the deck I played at Omaha was all about blocking and surviving. And this is in a lot of my set 2 decks already too. I think it was something that we needed. I don't know if it was needed on water, but maybe if that was a different third symbol.
It did seem interesting to put it on 2 wall cling symbols, kind of solidifying that these are the 3 most... I think that's really what it was. They were like, these are the 3 most defensive symbols, and we're going to double down on that. Because they gave it to the symbol that has damage reduction that could deal with cards like Electric Jolt, and the symbol that had wall cling that could deal with cards like Electric Jolt. So...
yeah, so it also adds to the fact that water gets a bunch of cool foundations that are all 2 difficulty for control checks. So there is my whole deck is going to be 2/4s by the end of set 2 or the end, the beginning of set 3. We're going to get more cool 2/4s, and like my whole deck's a 2/4. I don't know what to tell you.
If they keep making 4 checks as strong as they do, man, I think I've been doing the top 5 foundations list over on YouTube. If you want to check that out, plug the YouTube. I find that the 4 checks rank pretty high, even though I find myself maybe not running as many as I want to, but I've been playing Gremlin Toga, so...
Your deck came up a lot. We talked about it, because I think you talked to me about it like a little bit in passing. Mm-hmm. And when people were like, oh, like, what are you excited for in set 2? When I was either at locals or like Omaha, I tell them about this deck where you're like, okay, hear me out. You're gonna Crow and Frog take down Binding Cloth Capture, Alleyway Ambush, Price for Peace, and Toga. Are you following still?
Yeah. Then you cycle.
Yeah. And you're gonna discard your whole hand, and you're gonna draw them, and then like if they take damage, you're gonna loot, and you're gonna cycle cards out of your hand. It's gonna be great. I promise. Like,
it's super funny too. Like messing around with that deck. It's almost like there's no really good hands. But you can get out of so many bad hands. It doesn't feel like it's almost always middle ground.
Yeah. It looks like it's going to be a sweet deck.
Yeah, I do think right now I'm running Nitro Explosion XR in it because it gives me powerful, which is kind of like a flex move. Like, oh, this is something the deck really doesn't have, is a momentum dump. And it clears the card pool for those turns when I don't have like a good ambush setup, right? But if I might just start running whatever the best Bakugo combo attack is to get Binding Cloth Capture off better, because it's already a volume deck. It's not doing any cool speed or damage tricks. So it's just trying to have more cards, more attacks in hand than you have blocks.
What is the best one? Maybe Brutal Explosion?
Yeah, see, and it would have to be like the best blank one, because if I'm taking out the only Fury attack, see, it's weird. I might also play the Eraser Head kick that just says if it deals damage, you draw a card, like as it's blank. It's that's probably actually a really good candidate. It's just a simple 4-diff, and it's more card draw. It's more filtered through my deck.
No, because Alleyway Ambush just doesn't even have a pipeline. It's literally just got the enhance, and that's all it's on it. It doesn't have weapon or anything. So
continuous ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a static ability.
Oh yeah. The static. It just has no other text on it.
Yeah. Oh my god, if they had made it a charge, if they had made it one of their weapon, one of the Jiro keywords, come on.
Yeah, for sure.
She wouldn't ignore the progressive, but what?
Yeah. I was thinking maybe Binding Cloth Assault, because if you have turns where you have to like lead with a what's it called? Binding Cloth Capture, you can then go into a Cloth Assault to discard 1, draw 2.
Yeah.
Because it's combo weapon.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being the case. Like, there's so many options, but it's, that the beginning is Crow and Frog, and the end is Alleyway Ambush, and you can probably try to run. We're at a point in card game history where run whatever the best package is a legitimate answer. Like, run multiple packages is a legit answer for a lot of decks. So maybe you're just gonna have like a combo progressive card pool stuffing. I don't know, flip game.
I know a bunch of I know there's a handful, like Gorilla Blaster in chat, he's from my locals, and I know there's a few people from my locals watching. They're hearing me describe that I'm excited for this deck, and they don't believe me, because this is not like anything I've ever played before, because it tries to attack my opponent to death rather than beat them into submission. So they're definitely, I think this deck's gonna be really cool. Like I said, I talked about it a little bit this weekend with some people. I know Barrett Bryant was excited about it because we played each other and then sat next to each other a couple rounds. So.
Oh, sick! Yeah, they were watching me play it like late night on TTS. Like real weird hours, and it was pretty cool how far it could go. But I ended up just milling myself against a life Toga, so it's kind of interesting that they basically watched it fail and draw itself to death and still think it's cool.
Yeah.
But speaking of Barrett Bryant and being in Omaha, you participated in the first ever in-person provisional showdown. Is that correct?
I did. It was a ton of fun.
Tell me, what deck did you play?
I played Asui on water, but not like try to kill you on turn 2 Asui, closer to Jose's list that he top 16 the second provisional with.
Mm-hmm.
Where like sometimes, so the day before, I was sitting there with a few people, and I was like, I want to play like some kind of earth deck because it's the cards I've played with the most, but I also have played with the water cards. And then I went back to my hotel and I took out like the 10 cards that I wanted to play with the most, and 8 of them had the water symbol. And I was like, well, I guess I'm playing a water deck of some kind. And then I came to the conclusion that I liked Asui more, because sometimes like Kamui is really good, right? He stops the chain decks and he restands when blocking and all that. But Kamui doesn't get to draw like the 6 attack turn 2 hand and go, oh, you're accidentally dead, like Asui can.
Yeah, Asui has what I call like point and click offense. Like, you can just look at your hand and you can just go, okay, as long as they don't have some super god hand, all I have to do is point all of my cards, in the right direction, and we're going. And
then, like, the big thing about it too is, especially if game 1 goes the way that I want it to play, whereas like I'm building sticky balls and rescue completed and creepy realizations and blocking with ice storms and frog kicks and doing all kinds of like hyper defensive things. Game 2, if I draw like the 3 eat my sticky balls 3 tongue whip hand, they're not ready for it. They try to super build. They go like build 5 or build 6, which actually happened in one of my rounds. My opponent did not realize that I could turn 2 in with my deck. And so he like built 6 and had 1 card in hand, and I was like, ooh, I think you're dead, man.
Yeah.
Like I drew my hand and I was like, yeah, I think you're real dead.
the oops all aggro.
Yeah. And that's what I liked about it. I liked the fact that like one of the things I struggle with a little bit in the game is sometimes decks are made to do a certain thing, and when you draw the opposite, right? So if your deck is meant to be slow and you draw the all attack hand, your deck feels like it doesn't work, especially if you draw it too early, right? If you draw it on turn 2 when you're trying to draw it on turn 4, it feels like your deck doesn't work. And one of the reasons I wanted to play Asui is she gets to take any of those hands and she gets to turn them fully online. I went 4-2-1, and I played some really good players. My losses were to like 3rd place, which is Levi, who was playing Ochako, and to Kevin Broberg playing Ochako 2, who got 10th place. And then my draw was with Barrett in round 1. So
Yeah,
And
it's
then,
really interesting because I hear, I guess I see typed online a lot that Asui is this crazy aggro. She's like the embodiment of aggro. And when I think of Asui, I think of being able to play more attacks than anyone else on any turn. But she
mhm,
has to have the I think they can be for the most part any attacks. I don't want to say it doesn't seem like it has to be tongue whip and frog lashing,
mhm,
but those are just like those are just really hard cards to play around because frog lashing is coming in after so many different attacks that you've probably had to start blocking, and tongue whip makes everything better,
yeah,
as you play through it. So I don't want to say she needs really specific stuff, but it feels like you really want to accrue this critical mass that can't be dealt with. And the way that you do that, because this game has such proactive defense that any deck can play through blocking, right?
mhm,
You do it by just playing the best defense possible. So because you can play more cards than anybody at any given moment, that allows you to block more than anybody can play at any given moment. And the
yeah,
sticky balls package, creepy realization plus sticky balls, is just like the wall that lets you play that defensive style. Like you can block so many things that other decks can't afford to because by the time they've played their fourth attack, creepy realization is going to delete all of its damage.
yeah. We actually, I had a game. I can't remember, but all the rounds are kind of blending together a little bit. But where I like -4 speed with sticky balls and attack, blocked with frog kick, kicked the frog kick out to restand the sticky balls, put a card in my opponent's card pool, and then ice stormed them. And I was like, please stop attacking me. Like, just you've got to stop. I can't. I'm gonna die. So I think that like frog kick is actually a really insane. Like, I definitely undervalued that card before I started playing this version of Asui
Mm.
because sometimes you just string like two of them, like you like have three of them in your hand and a frog lashing, and they're like waiting for the frog lashing, but then you're just slinging these like, hey, here's a 2 low for 5. If you take it, the next one's a 5 low for 5, and here's another 5 low for 5, and eventually that five's like a reasonable number to be doing. So, and they're like waiting to block the tongue whip or the frog lashing or a frigid heat wave. So it was a lot of fun, man. I had a ton of fun with the deck in the event, and getting to meet some of the higher like long-term players was really cool. And I got to talk to like Barrett for not very long because we played I want to say that he probably was playing 3 less cards than me, but I want to say we were playing a 60 card mirror.
Yeah. Yeah, he was
Uh,
definitely playing something inspired by Bromley and Jose too, I'm sure.
yeah. And then I talked to like Kevin Broberg for a solid amount of time. Chris Smith and I hung out for most of the night on Friday.
Okay.
And then it was like I said, it was a lot of fun. I went 4-2-1, which I thought was pretty good. I basically was 1 win away from being in top 8 contention. Um,
Mm.
Against Kevin, so we were talking about all the cool 2/4s that Water gets, right? The issue with that is sometimes you mulligan 14 cards and you draw 6 foundations, but they're all 2 costs. And you fail your 3rd foundation against Ochako 2, and then she murders you.
Yeah,
So,
I from playing standard for a while, I became a little allergic to forechecks. When I first started playing, it wasn't that big of a deal, and it almost was like you never really looked at the check. You looked mostly at the effect, and
mhm.
the check was just sort of like being a forecheck was just sort of a happenstance of it being a good card. It wasn't until aggression started to sort of ramp up because there were very defensive formats. And so how do you shake it up? You introduce offense. So that is like a very normal thing. I'm not going to comment on power creep like one way or another. That's a podcast for another day. But so as they introduced more offense, right, to encourage aggressive strategies and strategies that could overcome defense, it became the kind of thing where there were good defensive cards with 5 checks. There were such strong effects on 5 control cards that running a 4 control card meant that you really needed to have a like an integral part of your game plan, I felt, to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
we really did used to evaluate a card and say, man, this card is a whole ass forecheck. Like, and now
Yeah.
I think it's at the point where forechecks really are the strongest cards in my deck, and I feel good about that.
Yeah, like there are a few changes I would have made to my deck. I probably would have gone to the full 8-0 cost foundations. I played 6. I played 4 desperate times because I wanted to be able to stun lock All Might decks. Like when they went to draw 2, I was like, okay, commit 3.
Well, that
Especially
hits
if I thought it was
character
a turn they were
effects?
going to go all in. Hmm?
That's wild.
Yeah. Like the All Might 3 deck, when they go to draw 2 cards, you can respond with all your desperate times. So I played 4 desperate times and I only played 2 gotcha. And in retrospect, I think I would cut. My list is on the My Hero Discord. Like it's a little farther up there in deck and strategy because somebody was asking about Froppy, but I think I would have cut one of the 2 cost foundations I played and one of the 3+ ultras I played and played 4 gotcha 4 desperate times. And I think I would have had a much more like successful weekend because some of the games I won, I basically like mulliganed a bunch and looked at my hand and was like, hope I don't fail my checks because after the second one, I don't know if I check a 3, my turn ends.
Oh, I see. I see.
So yeah. And then other than that, I mean, I got to little kid luck one of my opponents. That was really cool. I'm not a little kid, but I got to little kid luck one of my opponents. So
Yeah, Froppy's prone to that too. Like you're talking about the oops, I drew all attacks turn 2, but I can actually play them. She's
yeah.
like top, that's some little kid luck for sure.
So in round 4, we had lunch break after round 3. I came back from round 3 at 2-0-1. Round 4, I go in and I'm playing against. What am I playing against? No, it was round 3. It was round 3 before lunch break. I even told myself I played Asui round 1, round 2, and round 3. There were only 10 total. I was one of the 10, and I played it 3 times in a row.
Damn.
And in round 3, I was playing against a life variant that was like, I'm gonna try and kill you on turn 2, and
Mm.
play Crow and Frog and all that. And he won game 1 because I went into deadlock because I couldn't avoid it, and he had like 2 first villain encounters and just put 4 cards into my card pool and then played 3 tongue whips and I was like, I'm dead. And then
See, I
and
really
then
enjoy the life version personally because Crone
yeah,
Frog readies passing the torch. So I feel
yeah,
good about the like card advantage I can get for poking, and it's the best version of her. Well, it's not the best, but it is the version of her that can poke, get 1 momentum, get card advantage, and have like a momentum for plus ultra later.
yeah. And then so the luck comes in game 3. Game 2 I win and it's not very close. I win in like 4 or 5 minutes. I like turn 3 I just draw the nut hand with all my tongue whips. And then he puts me to 1 on like turn 4 of game 3 and I draw my hand. He's at 20 still. Um he had committed out a bunch to try and kill me. He doesn't get there. I play a tongue whip and through like sticky balls and a couple other things like a plus ultra, I was able to get it to 10 damage. And he goes, all right, as long as I don't check a 3 or a 4, I can pass this block. And then he checks a 4.
Oh
And I was like,
no.
okay, cool. All right, I'm good. And then I played a Frigid Heat Wave, which is the only other attack in my hand. I draw 2 cards. They're both foundations. The only way I can kill him is if I mill 3 straight ranged attacks. I'm not playing all range attacks. I'm playing Frog Kick too. And then I hit Frog Lashing, Frigid Heat Wave, Ice Storm for the +6 damage. And he goes, okay, as long as I don't check a 3, I can pass this block. And then he checked a 3 and he goes, okay, I guess I'm dead. And I was like, holy crap, I shouldn't have won that game.
Bro.
Yeah, it was the luckiest I've ever been in this card game.
That story's killing me. You're killing me with
Yeah.
that. Oh my goodness.
I don't even like. I hate when people apologize to me when they got lucky. And as soon as it happened, and he checked the 3 after I checked 3 range attacks, I was like, "Yo, I'm sorry, man."
Yeah, like what do you say?
I was like, I did not deserve to win that game at all. But
Them's the
don't worry,
breaks,
it came back
man.
the next
That's...
round when I played Levi in round 4. He just mollywopped me, dude. I died so fast. He like just killed me on turn 2 both games, and that was it. So
And see, it's so funny, the story about the checking the 3 and the 4 there. One of the things I like to talk about a lot, like I'm not the best strategy guy, I'm not the best numbers guy because I like to recognize a lot of the variance in the game, and I start my turns without a strict plan a lot of the time. And like I try to see if good things will happen, which is why Froppy doesn't gel with me so much, because usually you have to have the grip, and you just know this is enough because she's that damn good. And so like so one of the things I think you can learn only through experience is there's so many players who would just stop. They would just quit at some point in that turn because they would look at the situation and say, okay, if they check a 4 and a 5, or something like that, like if they don't check bad twice, I can't win. So like the conservative thing to do is to just pull up now. Even though if they stop now and they don't win now, they almost certainly die. They're almost for sure going to lose, right? So there's so many games that you're going to end up winning that feel like you shouldn't just because they didn't have the right block zone, they didn't check the right cards, or you've milled 3 ranged attacks, you luck sack.
Yeah. Like, I basically, when I was at 1, when I drew that hand for that turn, I had no high blocks in my hand, and he was playing Crow and Frog and Frigid and tongue lashing or frog lashing. So I knew that if I passed and he drew a single attack, I was dead because I was at 1. And so I was like, I just have to get lucky and hope I either draw more attacks off this Frigid or become like luck incarnate. And that's what happened. So, we take those when we get them.
Yeah, you have to take the W's.
Yeah, I got my comeuppance, but,
All right, so tell me what was that your favorite match? The little kid luck?
No, my favorite match was my match against Barrett. Like that match was a ton of specifically game 1 against Barrett. Now, granted, I think he would tell you that he was behind the whole match, but for me, when I saw the pairings for round 1, I went, "Oh man, my tournament's over already."
One of the greatest skills you can have. I'm going to fix my lighting for a second. That's a little bit better. One of the greatest skills you can have as a card game player is to downplay everything. Mm-hmm. You got to downplay your character. You got to downplay your deck. You got to downplay your decision making. You got to downplay your checks. You're like, oh man, I only drew 3 attacks out of the 5 cards I drew this turn. Like, bro, you drew 5 cards. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm. So when I saw the pairings for round 1, I immediately was like, okay, well, we're just here to have fun the rest of the day, right? Like, yeah, I could go 6-0 and 6-1. And so in game 1, I just felt like we both played this very fun back and forth. Because like I said, I was playing 63 or 62 cards. And he probably was playing like 59 or 60. So we were playing, I was playing all 60 cards that were in his deck for sure. And we had this really fun back and forth match where I felt like I made a ton of really good decisions on my end. And my goal when I saw that I was paired against a world champion, right? Or a champion, like a Universus UFS, was I just want to play as best as I can. And then game 2, I probably should have 2-0'd Barrett. He built 2 foundations and passed, and I just couldn't draw enough attacks. So I didn't get to punish him. And it was like a big learning thing where like, I probably should have been reviewing more aggressively to try and kill him, because like when your control water deck opponent builds 2 foundations and passes, you've got to take that as a sign that they have to die.
Yeah.
So I felt like I learned a lot just from playing against him. And then afterwards we talked a little bit, and he was like, no, the only thing I saw that you could have done better was killed me in game 2. And I just told him that I just couldn't get there. And he was like, you should have reviewed like any card you had in your hand that wasn't orange, it should have been discarded. So
yeah, the review step it's such a small wrinkle. The review step is the ripple to a lot of game events. And I think it makes it difficult to analyze your own play, because a lot of times you have to go back 2 or 3 turns to, oh man, I reviewed a high block. Or, oh man, I held this low block every turn, where if I had just reviewed and been a little more ballsy, I would have drawn the 1 attack that opened everything up. So, like, if you're playing against a deck, you know the winning attack is a home run comet, or, you're afraid of one zone specifically, and you're holding that block, and it's statistically the right answer. but you can see multiple games where you actually would have just drawn gas just by reviewing one or two extra cards, or whatever it is. Like, it's so hard to look back at that and not just claim it's hindsight, right?
Yeah. Well, like specifically against Barrett, like my first few checks were all attacks. So on turn 2, I didn't review. I kept like a foundation and a plus ultra in my hand, and I don't know. I should have reviewed the plus ultra in retrospect, but those are what I kept in my hand. And then I played a frigid that I drew. I checked an attack. I paid for it. But if I would have, and then I drew 2, and they were both foundations. But then I milled 3, and then the next card that I checked was an attack. I milled 3 attacks, and the next card I checked. So theoretically, if I would have reviewed and drawn an additional card, I would have drawn myself into another attack, because he just took 10. He's like, yeah, I go to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Like, I even saw it like afterwards when he was like, you should have just reviewed anything that wasn't an orange card on turn 2 against me to try and kill me.
Yeah, and I talked a little bit about that in the top 5 video for Chaos Foundations. In the Typhoon, seems like this ace in the hole, last ditch effort, can't possibly block this kind of card. But there's quite a few games I've played where I'm holding 4 foundations and I'm like terrified of dying, and I built 2 because I bricked or whatever, and my opponent just builds 2 back at me, and I'm like, oh fuck. Mm-hmm. Well, I gotta review 1, draw 3, and it's still no attacks, right? So it's like I'm still afraid of dying, and I still have to, and I have to have enough cards for this in the Typhoon. And then my opponent will play some kind of poke turn where I know they're not trying to kill me, or they're like desperately digging, or I've survived to a point where I just know I don't need these cards. Being able to discard 2 extra and then still review has actually unjammed me. It has unbricked me more times than I can actually recall. It is super risky though, because you typically have to do it on like the first or second. Like, you have to do it on like something stupid like an electric jolt. But if you make the right call, and you're not playing against Amina, who's gonna top deck some random lethal.
Yeah, they're gonna fish with their foundations or something.
Being able to get cards out of your hand is definitely, I think, like a second level skill, like a level up, kind of part of the game plan. And it's something that I do too aggressively. I will throw +1 high blocks away so often, because if it turns into me winning on the next turn, like, that just feels so much better. But yeah. Then I get mad that I don't have any high blocks in my turn 2 hand, and if I don't win, I'm absolutely dead to this deck, right?
Yeah, for me, like, yeah, it was like I think that was my favorite match because I learned so much walking away from it. Even losing to Broberg in round 6, which, like, if I win that match, I'm in top 8 contention. Even losing that, while I was a little sad that I lost, I still learned a ton. Like, because we just talked afterwards. Now, granted, game 2 was just a non-game, but I made a small little decision that could have kept me alive, where I built the wrong foundation. Like, I played a rescue completed, and then I played an irrefutable or something. Yeah. And my failed foundation was a creepy, but if I would have played the creepy, I think I would have survived his aggro turn at 1 health, and then been able to try and build and like live longer, if that makes, you know what I mean? Like, it was like a small micro decision that I made that ended up, not even micro, it was kind of like a larger decision that I made that ended up really, really affecting me. And then I think my least favorite match, and it had nothing to do with my opponent or anything, it was just when I played against Levi, because he was drawing and checking like hotter than the sun, and I just checked 3s on everything, and there was like not much I could have learned from that game. He just blew me out on turn 2 both games by checking 5s and 6s like nonstop.
I mean, did you see that finals, that grand finals, man?
Oh yeah, where Tyner checked 3 2s in a row or something.
He checked, I think it was every 2 in the deck, and it was definitely a back-to-back at one point. Like, it was back-to-back attacks on his poke turn. Like, he had bricked, and I think it was a turn 3. He was like, yo, let me just get a jolt in my momentum. He was like, let me get this throwdown. Let me see if he might not block. I could put a foundation, like, just let me play the game, And then he checked it 2, and then he's like, all right, well, you're in for a penny, in for a pot. And I think it's the right call. Because, again, he's got, like, the throw that will be great later. and he's got the jolt that is the only chance he has in his hand. Like, looking at what he's got, like it's his best effect defensively. So he plays that out and he checks it 2. And then later on down the line, he tries to block and checks it 2. Mm-hmm. It's rough.
I do think it's interesting, like while we're talking about Omaha, that a lot of people have been saying for a while that if Tokoyami can go into a top 8 or a top 16 as 1 seed, he's going to win the whole event. And Marcus played really well. We were next to each other a couple tables. So it's not just Marcus playing an aggro deck and getting 1 seed. Like, he still played the event extremely well.
Yeah.
But he did get a 1 seed and then just run the table.
And, we talk about it, when I've done commentary with Tamron, I talk to Tamron Cardwell, occasionally, just late at night, Discord with Chris Bromley. We're just chilling, BSing. And, like, there's so many different lines. That's like Tam's word for it. All the different lines, right? Like all the different paths, all the different decision trees. And it's the thing that all of us love about the game. But it makes it so frustrating sometimes because people are going to never do the same thing that I would do. They're going to never do it in the same order. And yet we're all sitting there thinking, man, that looks so easy. Like, oh, he just checked good. He drew good. And like, and all 3 of us are like doing something different in our head than he's doing, and it all works.
Yeah. I watched him in one of the rounds. I was at table 5, and I think he was at table 4. I was at table 4. He was at table 3 or something. And he had like a thing where we were sideboarding, and I had already presented my deck, so I like looked at his hand while my opponent was still shuffling up, and he like made some decisions, and he ends up winning the game because of the way he made his decisions, and the decisions I would have made would have lost me the game. Just because of how his opponent blocked and stuff. So, like, he played extremely well. Like, I want to give him credit for that. I just think it's very interesting that, like, a lot of the podcasts, I think I've even heard, maybe it was Unfun Stuff, maybe it was Tam, just say, the moment Tokoyami gets first seed going into top 8, he's going to win an event.
Yeah.
And then he got first seed going into a top 8 and won an event. But he also won a lot. I think he won a couple games going second on stream, too. So it wasn't even like it was just he won the die roll and he got the Tokoyami people 2-1 every single round.
Yeah, it's really interesting too because I've heard Daniel talk about it. He's been like I believe he won a 1K or he got second, and then he did really good in the tournament that I ran with Tokoyami. And he talks about how he's almost never looking for like the turn 2 kill. It's cool when it happens, but people are so afraid of it that he can get so much mileage from just flexing on turn 2 with a great poke. He was talking about how like he uses Summon Dark Shadow way differently than I ever would have, personally, and how like learning from him, from his experience, was really cool to just be like, oh, okay, well, I would definitely play poorly into that because I wouldn't do that. So I don't understand the value of it, and the value of it is you're getting plus ultra turn 2 or turn 3. I mean, like the second attack turn, and so, to me as Tokoyami, when you go second, your turn 2 almost matters even more because surviving 1 attack turn is cool, but they didn't have that many foundations. Surviving that second attack turn with 20 life, and they're like, okay, well, I just won't play any mid attacks because you're gonna pick up the block.
I saw KK Panda saying he hoped the Bird players said Revelry in the Dark at least once the weekend. I will say
probably
Legendary Wolf did the headband event where whoever they randomly chose someone. Thomas Redmond was the first person with the headband, and if you had the headband at 6:00 on Sunday, random air quotes, but if you had
chose the provisional winner,
who happens to play at your store and be someone that you're it's funny. So if you had the headband at 6 p.m. on Sunday, you won a case of first edition. So Mark Tyner had the headband going into the finals, and I thought it was, if you've watched the anime and you've watched the the scene where the bird is the reason Deku makes the tournament. It was very funny to me that the Tokoyami deck snagged the headband in the last match of top. He ends up not keeping it. He literally loses it the moment he gets off stream. But I thought it was really funny. Where like Deku's crying that he let everyone down. But
so funny.
Marcus came in there with his Dark Shadow and like snapped it off Tyner's neck. Yeah.
So somebody challenged him as soon as he just won the whole
Oh, dude,
event.
as soon as he got done, someone was like, "I want to play." That's how it worked,
I
though.
love the rules.
Tyner wins it. So the Momo player from top 8 is the person who challenged him for it. He wins
Nathan
it.
DeWalt.
And Tyner challenges the Momo player. And then at like 5:58, somebody tells Tyner that they're challenging him, and they pull out Dinky, and then they win the die roll and just Dinky him on turn 2. And they win the case at like 6 o'clock.
And it's like a best of one.
Yeah, it was best of one. It was best of one in any format you wanted. So it shuffled around between some people who wanted to play standard and people who wanted to play My Hero, and some people wanted to play other weird formats. Like I think somebody might have done a pack, like bought 3
pack
packs and
war.
shuffled them together. Yeah,
Thumb wrestle you for it.
it had to be universes. So,
Okay.
But yeah, I thought it was really thematic and funny that the Dark Shadow deck grabbed the headband at the last minute, and he got to hold the headband. It would have been cool if that was like the last time the headband could be on the line too, but
Right.
yeah.
Speaking of universes, speaking of standard, I think that's a pretty good segue to the reason I really wanted to have you on board for this. The reason I really wanted to have someone, I'll say newer to the community for the first episode. Do you want to watch some UFS World Championships 2017 with me?
I do. I would be very excited to. I bought some standard cards in preparation. Not standard, but older cards in preparation so I could see what they look like, because I don't know the last time I looked at a not My Hero card.
Okay. So do you want to have it open on your screen? I just tell you the exact timestamp and follow along, because I don't know if the delay is going to mess it up from the stream.
I think actually, hold on. I'm going to show the packs I bought real quick on my camera because, they're old packs.
Sick.
And
We
see
love
how
the
far
pack
behind
opening.
I am. So I bought some Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers, right? I
Good
bought
set.
Soul Calibur 6 full pack.
All right.
Actually, yeah, I'm not so far behind. And then I bought a pack of Libra Souls, and then I also bought some packs for some friends at locals. But I actually think I can watch it on stream. I just have to make the stream a little bigger.
Sick. I can dig it. And I'll be pausing enough because I'm going to have to explain to you sort of, what are the key cards here. So I'm going to pop over to this little spot here. We're going to transition. And let me zoom. Let me see if we can get the... All right. So I don't know if you can read right there where it says Bomb Man and Dimitri, right?
Okay.
So we've got Dimitri up here. I'm going to put him up on the screen for the viewers. There we go. All right. So can you read Dimitri on the screen there?
There it is. So first form, gain 2 vitality, or flip an opponent's foundation. Enhance once per turn. What does the 5+ mean? I've seen that on cards. I don't know what it means.
Awesome. Yeah. So the 5+ means you have to make a control check, and it has to be 5 or greater, and you can commit foundations to pass it, just like and your character to pass the check, just like you would to play a card.
Okay. So and then add 1 card from your discard pile towards your card pool. It does not count towards progressive difficulty for the rest of the turn. Was he adding like static effects, or did he have things that cared about cards in his card pool?
Yes, that is exactly what he did. Both of those things. So he had this card Negative Stolen, which is a throw, so it always deals damage. And it says while it's in your card pool, after any attack deals damage, you gain 1 life. And then, of course, it's got an enhance on it that says if your opponent doesn't block it, which would be stupid because it's a dinky little throw and you're going to take half anyway, but if you don't block it, it sticks around for free. So it will count towards progressive, but he can add a second one. And you can conceptualize his enhance on defense to be -1 damage to everything.
Okay, yeah, because you would take damage and then gain the life. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a card in the deck that says after you gain a life, you gain 1 additional life, but it's only once per turn. There are other ways to gain life in the deck and things like that, but he also has good damage reduction. This deck would be the life version because Dimitri has those 3 symbols on that attack: Earth, Evil, Life. And on offense, he has a card that says while it's in his card pool, your attacks get +2 damage. So you can essentially think of it as 5+ your attacks get 2 damage, or your opponent's attacks get -1. But you could add negative stolen to your card pool on your turn to gain back 2. So if you didn't need the damage, if you were just trying to like wall up, if you're trying to get back in a game, you could just add a negative stolen. And he played almost exclusively throws, so they would deal damage to proc negative stolen.
I gotcha. That seems like a deck that I would enjoy, I'm not going to lie. Also, is this one of the infamous no-block cards I'm told about that exists, but I don't believe anyone?
Oh, that's right. You've never seen a card with no block.
I have not. I don't even know if I was like looking through the cards that I bought, and I don't think anything I opened had no block either. So I was like, curious. I was like, this is one of those old men who are shaking their fist at the sky. The negative one is a no block card. So they are lying to me.
It used to be that cards were balanced around not having blocks at all sometimes, and there were very few blocks higher than +3, but I have seen +4 and +5, like plus ultra before, and I'm pretty sure there's like a +6 just for a reason, like just because some card probably looked at block mods. But it was very unusual for a throw to have a block.
Okay.
One of the balancing factors of playing throws was that you couldn't block with them, because your opponent blocking your throw, you still get half damage. So it didn't seem right for them to be able to play defense while they were like the type of offense defensive decks run, because they literally grind you out slowly. So Dimitri was probably like the first competitive deck I made. He was like the first deck that clicked. And looking back on it, it makes sense because as a newer player, I had only been playing for about a year or two when he dropped. Mm-hmm. Like Darkstalkers and the Mega Man set were like the first big releases for me. Those were like the first like new cards have come out. And they came out very shortly after I started. And so coming around to Dimitri was like the first time I felt real power. It was the first time I picked up, like you can hand someone like a tier 0 MTG deck, and if they know the basic rules, they can probably pilot it to a win, Mm-hmm. And so this was the first deck for me. And I didn't realize how powerful it was at first. Which of the two abilities do you think is better, just looking at them at a glance?
I mean, looking at them at a glance, I have the biggest crush on Apathetic. So the first form ability, letting me either gain 2 or just target flip a foundation, seems pretty nutty. But that's the one to me that I think would like stand. They're both really good, but if I was going to pick one that was like best, I think the flexibility of the first form stands out to me.
Yeah, so the first form, you don't have to play an attack. It's the first thing you do on your turn. You just immediately say, I don't want you to have your best foundation. Mm-hmm. That is just incredibly strong. And I'm actually going to pause really quick because NJ Brock from the chat pointed out a +6 that I forgot about that I'm going to probably show way too much. Yeah, probably just saw me type all the way through Ultra there. So this is from 7th Cross. This is Clockwork Castle. It has a +6. I don't know if you can read it. It's a little small, but the main thing about it is it reduces the block mod every time your opponent has a card leave their card pool. So this is like a pretty good check to like a Froppy deck in Standard, but it's still not super reliable. It's a 0 difficulty asset. It's a very weird card, but they do exist.
Does it say Breaker 4 on it?
Yeah. I think it increases the difficulty. Let me just read. Yeah, it increases the difficulty of their cards after a card leaves your opponent's card pool, and both players can play it. So like if you're playing a card pool clear deck, you can't just put it on the table because your opponent can punish you too. Mm-hmm. So +6s do exist, but it reduces the block modifier by 2 for each card that has left your opponent's card pool.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to pop back over. So Dimitri, right? Sorry, I want to acknowledge the chat for a second. I'm not the best streamer.
You're good. I think Bromley just rated you with what was the end of his stream.
Ooh, oh hey, thank you guys. I appreciate that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we're talking. We talked about our favorite Crimson Rampage stuff, and we're going over a World Championship match from 2017. Andrew here had never seen cards without a block or cards with a +6 block, so I'm showing him all the fun
cards with
stuff.
gender and height and weight and.
Yep, they got rid of gender because too many people got upset at Nutcracker. They were like, "Come on, kicking a woman there hurts too."
I don't think I opened a character, so like the height and weight and gender. Like I bought these packs to open a character, and then I opened some $25 ultra rare, and I was more upset that I didn't open the 10-cent characters. Ridiculous.
It's rough. It's rough, man. Yeah. You're cursed with these ghost thieves.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so we're talking about how strong Dimitri was. We're talking about how his enhance could be seen as +2 damage. And now these cards did have to be in your discard pile. So that's going to be the next card I talk about in a second here is, Dimitri does make a control check himself. But one of the cards, and you can see, if you look on the screen here, you can see that the Dimitri player's on the right, Matthew Curtis Turner. He is on multiple cardboard. He's a former team's champion. And I believe he has an action. I think that's extended. I forget. But he's on Winners Never Quit if you look it up on Ultra. So he's playing this card called High School Crush. And now High School Crush is... we're seeing too much. There we go. High School Crush is one of the best cards to open within this deck. Because... I apologize. If it's too small, I can resize it.
No, I can read it. Read it. You're good.
I see you leaning. So High School Crush.
I'm an old man.
High School Crush has two really cool effects, especially for a defensive deck like Dimitri. One is once it goes into your staging area, once you build it, you can reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a foundation, you get to add it to your hand. So this is one of the earlier foundations that it doesn't strictly cantrip, right? It has almost like a destined for mainstream success sort of effect. Only you always have to call foundation. But it would not only let you know if you were going to draw an attack next turn, it would add a foundation to your hand to replace itself. And at the very worst, if there was an attack, which is a bad check on top, you would know and be able to use the enhance, which is a 4+. And if it's an attack, it'll just fail. So if it's on your attack, it's fine. If it's on your opponent's attack, it's fine because now you're not checking a 3. So it's almost like you got, the +2 back anyway. But the 4+ gives their attack -1 speed, and that is repeatable on every attack.
Yeah, that's pretty strong. It's like a combination of abilities that make it like where the whole is, or the sum is greater than its parts kind of thing. Where like each of these effects is pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? But when you put them together, it's very good.
And it's specifically good for this character who, there just weren't that many mill options. Like, discarding cards from the top of your deck wasn't a typical cost at the time. At least not that I remember too much of. It was mostly control check costs that you were trying to find.
Okay, yeah. I see that because he wants to put the statics into his discard to put them back in with his enhance. So
yeah. Oh yeah. KK Panda points out that in a lot of these earlier sets, like the High School Crush set, the character cards were ultra rares because ultra rares were the only shiny cards, and they really wanted foil characters, and also because they didn't want to pollute the packs with a lot of characters, I guess. But I think it was mostly that people wanted foil characters, and that was kind of the only way to do it. So imagine you're upset you pulled an ultra rare. You could have pulled an ultra rare character if you bought some KOF.
I'd have been hyped. I'd have been so hyped to pull an ultra rare character. I think I opened them on Discord with some friends who play primarily My Hero. But I know nowadays I would be upset. But opening packs that were new to me, I would have been pretty excited because I was just opening them for characters.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely a few. I think there was some rare characters too, although don't quote me on that. But I definitely remember seeing foil characters and thinking, man, these are tight. I want the foil version. Why are some of these not foil? Like thinking that every card had multiple multiple types. Because the first UFS card I ever saw was a foil Terry Bogard, which I believe was actually a promo. I think the foil Terry was not even like an ultra rare in the set. I think that one was a promo, and then the Terry in the set was not foil.
Yeah.
So I'm sure one of the old heads in the chat can correct me on that one, because that is technically a little before my time when those cards were being printed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, he was from the promo packs. Yeah. So you had to get Terry from a promo pack back then, which were pretty easy to get. They weren't.
Now I will tell the chat, they are saying that back then I would have. I do understand nowadays I would be very unhappy if they were like, hey, the new Deku is an ultra rare and you're gonna open 4 of them in a case, or you're gonna open. It's gonna take one of your URs away. However, when I bought these random packs, someone was like, I think that has the UR kin in it, and I was like, bro, opening a UR character would be sick for a format that I don't own cards for.
True, and that would be the one to pull, I guess. Yeah, I think after a while they would do like one special character card. They did like an upside down Cammy as like an ultra rare, but I don't even know if that might not have taken up your rare slot. So probably did though. So anyhow, we've got High School Crush, which is important on this early turn. The fact that he's getting 2 of them down is kind of nuts. It's a pretty big upswing, right? And then I want to talk about his opponent, which is being played by Rodney Garland, who is on Badger Club, which is the only team's foundation. There was a while where Jasko was offering teams to make a foundation instead of an asset, so that you could maybe adjust the power level a little bit around. It could be a little more applicable to other decks. And they ended up with one that has 2 kind of nuts effects, but it was high difficulty. It had like very fair costs. So I think I actually saw a lot of it played in the Retro series. I saw a lot of decks in the early Retro series back when they did their first online like Legacy everything format kind of thing. I did see a lot of the Badger Club get played there, but it was kind of weird because it has an effect where if you block with it, you get to add an attack to your hand. But it also had, while it's in your staging area, after one of your attacks deals or gets blocked, I forget which one, but you get +1 to everything for the turn. So here's, this is a character who's really strong in a format because he has the option of giving +2 damage to everything. Here's now a foundation that any character can run that can give +1 damage to everything, right? Mm-hmm. So Rodney, and so I don't know if this was made specifically to beat Dimitri, but I know that in the past Rodney has made decks specifically to beat Dimitri, and he has specifically played me in teams and fucking destroyed my Dimitri deck doing it. So, we've had some really close, really sweaty, like white knuckle matches that only take a couple turns, but everything is so what's the word, like the brevity. You can feel the brevity of every move you make. Like it just every decision matters. And let me pop up Bomb Man here just so you can get an idea. It's Dimitri, Bomb Man. So Bomb Man has form, discard 2 cards. Your unblocked face-up attacks get +3 damage for the rest of this turn. And then he has an enhance, which is if your attack is partially blocked, your opponent destroys one of their foundations. Now there's 2 really important things. One is that is not a first form. You can do that form multiple times per turn. The other thing that's really important is that Rodney Garland is a madman and played like at least half the deck is attacks. And this deck, like the enhance is kind of sweet, but the main thing is the form. And the biggest thing on the form is that this deck has cards like Balanced Fighter in it. Now, Balanced Fighter is a really cool defensive tool. That response commit is like powerful on both sides of the board. But what's really important is that after you discard Balanced Fighter, you get to draw a card. So you can essentially turn into like a 7 hand size by discarding it, right? You get to pay some of that cost back. Now, on top of that, there is another card here called Sacrifice. What Sacrifice says, you don't have to read the enhance on it or anything. What the important part of Sacrifice in this deck is that when you review it, you draw 2 additional cards for your turn. So you go up to 8 hand size. However, you can only play attacks. So it is almost like Price for Peace in the sense that you don't lose the game, but as soon as you run out of attacks, you like skip your turn. So if you actually, and because you're doing it when you review, you have to like know ahead of time, I'm going to attack, right? So with that knowledge, we've got Dimitri is super defensive, and Bomb Man basically throws all of his, non-attack, his chaff cards away for bonus damage. Now, it's important. It's very important that it's unblocked. So if you partially block a Bomb Man attack, which is why he has the enhance to kind of dissuade that, right? Like that's his punishment. If you partially block it, it doesn't get the bonus damage, so you only take half of what the actual, the printed damage
or
is.
what's not printed, but the
Yeah, there's not a lot of like bonus damage in the deck, and you'll see pretty quickly what's going on. But so I want to go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I want to ask you how many times do you think per turn you can activate this Bomb Man and still win a game? Because he's only a 6 hand size.
He's going second, so he reviews one of the actions. Because you can attack going second, right?
Yes.
Okay, so he reviews one of the actions and draws to 8. And then he can balance. You have 4 balanced fighter. So theoretically, you could do it 8 to 6 back to 8. 8 to 6 back to 8. You could probably do it like 4 times and then play 4 attacks, right?
Right, and they would all be 12 damage if they don't get blocked
plus
base.
12, but you have to draw like the absolute nuts.
Yeah, you'd have to draw like super, and you'd have to fight through all this speed hate. So again, this is like a deck that can block pretty well. So I'm going to get the game started. I think I've laid a good enough groundwork.
I have one thing.
What's up?
I think you unintentionally picked a very funny match for me to watch, because one of these decks I'd love to play, and the other deck I could never imagine myself playing ever.
Absolutely, right? Like, I'm definitely the Dimitri player here, and I am sweating bullets against any Bomb Man deck. Or at least, and I should say this. It should be noted that before this deck, Bomb Man was considered like a joke character. Before this deck, Bomb Man was considered not necessarily unplayable, but he had no real game plan. No one had thought to, no one had really had the tools to use the form ability very often, and people would play against, people would try and make the angles about changing the zone so that they have to partial block and things like that, right? And I don't think I've seen a Bomb Man deck since, and I don't think I've ever seen a Bomb Man deck before.
Okay.
So I think that's important. Rodney Garland put a ton of time into the kinds of decks that he played, and they're all very abnormal. Their strategies are just, you'll see. We should just get it started. Okay. I think we've had all the people who know how all the cards work are waiting in the chat. So let me get it started. I got it at 2 times speed here. So, right. We're not going to be here all day. It's only, I think it's only a 20-minute match, 10-minute. We'll see. So we're going to see Matthew Turner, nicknamed Piglet. I'm not being mean. He's a well-known member of the community. He's going to build out. And so that's the Sacrifice review. So he's going to get additional cards. And you can see his hand is stacked. So he's going to form, and he's going to discard 2 cards. So he discarded an attack already. So you're in trouble.
Yeah.
He's already deciding, I have too much gas. And then he's going to discard 2 more attacks. So now anything that doesn't get blocked is +6 damage. So I'm going to pause it here. He checks the sacrifice. I'm going to pop up the attack on the screen here. If I got the right one. Nope. Giving spoilers. Yeah, Rapid Mega Buster. So this is the dinkiest of dinky attacks. I don't know if they'll ever print a 2 difficulty attack again. I was kind of surprised they printed 3 difficulty attacks. But this attack literally just says stun 2.
Okay.
That's all it does. It's a 2 difficulty. But in Bomb Man, it's not 2 damage. It's now 8 damage if you don't block it.
Yeah.
It is now like tied for what would be the highest printed damage in the format.
That's pretty funny, yeah. And then like he also, if he has multiple of these in his hand, he just isn't failing the next. If he has 2 more, he just can't fail them.
Yeah,
because he can commit his character if he needs to, I imagine.
Oh, and one thing I actually missed on the fast forward there. We're going a little out of order. You see, he checks the Darkside Master. That's the Dimitri card that gives +2 damage to all of his attacks. It's also a 2 check. At the end of his turn for his High School Crush reveal, he revealed Darkside Master. So he didn't get an additional card in hand, and he now has to check it off the top with a High School Crush. So that is kind of like one of the... So like, remember I was talking about you have to go back multiple turns to look at your reviews, to look at all the decisions you made. This can be something that changes a huge part of a game. You're now looking at a guy who had 8 cards in hand and is going to start attacking you, and you could have had 8 cards in hand too.
Yeah, for sure.
So he gets the stun 2. The High School Crushes come down for the minus speed. Dimitri is still committed, so he doesn't get to use his ability even if he hits a negative stolen. And he's going to check poorly, really poorly, to block that attack because he doesn't want to lose a third of his life, right? And then here comes our second attack, which is Mega Ball. So Mega Ball is one of the attacks that makes the most sense in this deck to me. And I was a little surprised he didn't play it first, but Rodney has all the experience with the deck, and he knows that he can't fail it. He doesn't have 2 checks in his deck, and he's already used his character. His opponent is tapped out, so them destroying something doesn't matter this turn. And so it's kind of like a blank resource. He's already done the farm as much as he's going to. And so by playing it in this way, the -2 difficulty gives him like a blank card pool again.
Okay, yeah. Sort of like he basically played at an attack that, like, for me would be like playing a summon, or like Massive Flash Freeze but summon Dark Shadow, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or like think maybe even like a Crow and Frog.
Yeah, Crow and Frog, like ignore progressive, yeah.
Yeah, so it this one is also 3 difficulty.
It makes for his third attack, it makes his first 2 attacks not have progressive.
Right. So he went for something he can't fail rather than playing it overly safe, right? Because if he plays the names are all super similar. If he plays the 3 difficulty attack first instead of the stun 2, theoretically he's way safer and he never has to commit anything. But getting that stun out early means that this attack now is way faster in comparison. Not only did he lose resources, but he doesn't get his High School Crushes anymore because he checked poorly. So I'm going to hit play again. And he's pretty much going to call in hands, and he's going to take the full damage from this. So he's going to take the bonus 6 plus the 4 printed.
Okay.
And now this one is a fucked up card. This is the only deck I've ever seen play this attack to its full potential. This is an attack that people were like kind of afraid of at first. But it's really messed up just because it's a 3 difficulty ranged attack. Like, that's probably the most important thing about this attack. But it does have the added benefit that if his character is ready, or if he does, there are times where he will build a foundation. And if he has one, you now, not only do you risk blowing one up to Bomb Man if you partial block it, but you'd also have to debuild yourself with Blaze Whip if you want to block it, right? So this deck has many different angles which it can punish you for actually trying to stay alive.
Yeah, and then or don't do any of this and take 9.
Yeah, exactly. So like you can lose your life or you can lose your stage. Is this an attack you would play in My Hero?
On its symbols right now, probably not. It's missing like the range symbols, but if it in general, yes. I think I would end up playing like Blaze Whip in, like we were talking about Asui, if this randomly had water on it or something. But on its symbols right now, I don't know. Could you even pull that off? Maybe on order, you could do a little bit of range starting with set 2.
Yeah, I could see maybe with Gotcha, right? You commit it, you get the extra speed.
Yeah.
Maybe you commit first day of class on the death.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah,
Get like a refund.
I definitely think it's on the list of things. Like, I mean, if it's very good. Like, I could see myself playing this. It even has like a block on it, man.
Yeah, it has a pretty good
you
block.
have to block.
I think the main thing is it's like a weird speed. Like it was designed with the intent to be like a safe poke because you can play it on a 3, you won't fail it. You can commit 1 foundation, which makes it kind of like a 4 diff, right? Like you can repay that cost, but the main thing is that if they block it, your opponent sets up your offense. And if not, then you can get a momentum and play later. Because, like, there were cards in this character's kit that benefited from you having specifically foundations in your card pool. You know, similar to Creepy Realization.
Even now, like, I'm so now you have me thinking about what I would play this in, and because it has good, you could play this in All Might 2 on the good symbol. And if they block your first attack, this is like a 3 low for 7 that's like take 7, or I'm like making all of my attacks faster.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, you got me thinking about it existing in My Hero, which would be cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of innocuous, and again, it wasn't played too often. And I think the most important thing about this card in this deck specifically is that it's a 3 difficulty ranged attack.
Yeah.
And I also just realized Scott DeJarnette, the guy who maintains UVS Ultra, by the way, pointed out, shout outs, thank you. He pointed out that this is a multi-symbol deck as well, if we're talking about comparing to the My Hero format. If you go back to the card Sacrifice, which, there we go. Hey, I got it first try. You notice it only shares death with the character. But all these attacks that he's playing only share order.
Okay.
And so, this one has death with his character, but these are only orders. So as long as the cards in his card pool all have the order symbol, he can keep playing cards.
Okay, so it's not. So that's what I actually was curious, because like, does it? It doesn't. It's every card, not just the card preceding it, right?
Right, it's every card in the card pool. There's so many like weird permutations, and it's never like super easy to explain, because every time anyone, like when it was explained to me, I read it like I thought of it a different way too. Like I thought of it as like a third option. I don't remember exactly, but I knew I had it wrong. But so
like in theory, right? If his first 2 attacks like were both on order, and somehow he was like maybe one was all evil order and the other was all good order and the other one was all evil order, and if he was able to like kick the evil card out, he could theoretically play a good attack next, right?
Yes. So like if he could get rid of the Mega Man cards from his card pool, he can play a death attack, which there are death only attacks in the deck.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe Skull Barrier would be in this deck. It is a 2 difficulty card. It's a reversal. It is basically 0 gravity lift, but better. It's like 0.
Imagine.
Yeah, it's like 0 gravity lift, but from your card pool.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Balance Fighter also is death only.
Gotcha.
So there is. So this is. So let me go back to the current attack here. Oh, I'm getting a phone call from the people I told not to call me while I'm live streaming. You'll love to see it. You'll love it. So this is Blaze Whip. Blaze Whip is basically a blank attack, but it's 9 effing damage. It's
Yeah.
massive for a 3 diff. Like, can you imagine 0 gravity capture being a 10 damage attack at you? And then he's got more. Oh, but he failed because he checked a 4. So Clear Cutter is a 4 check. But while it's in your card pool, it gives your opponent's check to block -1. All right, so Piglet gets a turn. He's at 8 life. I don't know. The life totals might be a little off on the screen. There's definitely a point where it starts to toggle up and down. Live streaming these events was very new. I believe this is the first one that was live streamed.
We're obviously going to gain 2 life here.
Yeah, we gain 2 life. So at one point it's going to like toggle around, but I believe that's it. His first enhance is to put Darkside Master in his card pool for +2 damage. And his first attack is the negative stolen. I don't know if everyone can tell at home.
I can sort of tell what they are, yeah.
Yeah. So that's super funny that he's like wiggling it around, because I talk about this all the time, especially with my newer players and my locals who struggle to remember which attacks dealt damage. A lot of them turn their card sideways, but a lot of people turn their card sideways when it doesn't count towards progressive, which Dimitri's ability makes it not count.
Yeah. I think I flipped mine upside down. I think I flipped them where my opponent's reading the text box and not me when they count towards not progressive. And then
that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where sorry, I got a message. Yeah, it's just one of those things where putting a card into your card pool without having it not count towards progressive would seem like a huge hamperance to a turn, right? Like, a lot of people don't want to play Price for Peace because it sticks in the card pool. And then they gave us Forcing Surrender, which solves that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
I get it. Yeah, the fact that he gets to ignore progressive when he does that too is pretty like just for example, I mean with Tokoyami, like the Dark Shadow Ruin saying your summon Dark Shadows don't count towards your progressive is like already very, very strong.
Yeah. So
having an ability on your character that's like all my attacks are going to get +2 damage or going to gain me a life when I deal damage, but this one doesn't count seems like really strong.
Yeah. So like a lot of people, I'm a little surprised they don't play it, but a lot of people don't play the Tokoyami attack that just adds one to the card pool that just adds a Summon Dark Shadow in, and I thought that would be like integral to the game plan because those stats are so dope. But it turns out that it kind of just slows you down really bad if you don't have Dark Shadow Ruin.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're going to see if he can pull himself out of the hole. He's back up to 10 because he gained the 2. And he should be gaining 1 when this deals damage. And it's important to note, too, that Rodney has no cards in hand. The Bomb-Man player has nothing in his hand. So this is pretty much just the Dimitri player deciding how much risk.
Oh, they have the cameras flipped. Sorry. You're like, Bomb-Man has no cards in hand, and then I'm looking at where the Bomb-Man name is. They have their cameras.
Yeah, and because the hand cams see the opponent, like, through, see their face, it gets kind of confusing.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But so this is just up to how much does the Dimitri player want to risk, right? And he has to think about, this is now a race. This is 100% a race. And he has decent damage. Like, +2 damage to all your attacks at the time was nothing to snark at. But he's not running the most high-powered offense either. So he checks a 3 and ends up having to tap a lot of resources here. But you can kind of tell that he's already in desperation mode from someone who's played no foundations. So this is, I forgot to show it. This is Sliding Ankle Breaker. So everybody knows where we're going. There's Dark Side. There we go. So this is Dark Side. If you're curious about the stats, it's pretty much just +2 damage, and you can't play ranged attacks around it.
Okay.
And then this is Sliding Ankle Breaker. So it's another throw. 4 damage throws are like the bread and butter of the offense. And it has the potential to gain you 2 vitality if your opponent blocks it. The fact that it can't leave the card pool wasn't super relevant at the time, but it did become relevant for effects like Zero Gravity Barrier, things, or like Kirogiri can't, respond to it, stuff like that.
Yeah. And then the enhance on it basically makes it say, like, you're taking 3 either way, right?
Yeah, well, so because he's got...
1.
What's up?
It's like the way it reads to me, right? You can make it 5 damage, where if you half block, it does 3, or you can make it 3 damage.
Right.
Where if you half block, like if you want to gain the 2, you know what I'm saying? Like if it makes sense what I'm saying, it's like take 3 or take 2.
Yeah, the idea is, like, it's in a character's kit who adds more damage if you don't block. And then for everyone else, they can typically just give it -1 to make sure that you gain the 2. But because he added the dark side to the card pool, he's now pretty much locked into just getting the damage out of it. Because his opponent's not going to block it. Normally, you'd put it at, 6 damage, and if it's, blocked, you gain the life. But he's kind of all in to chump him down to a killable range.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see the nerves, the nervous flicking is going to kind of come in here. Because at this point, there's not a whole lot he can do. He's going to play a Surveyor, which is a 3 difficulty. And he checked a 4. Oh, so the dark side doesn't count. So all he has to do is commit his character. And I guess he figures, like, gaining 1 life isn't going to help him. Because he's going to be at 12. Because he gained 2 life from the attacks that dealt. And he gained 2 life from his first form.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, he played that turn. It doesn't seem like his deck can actually do. I think Bomb Man had 28 or some larger than 20 health. I don't think his deck could actually do 20 without, like, the perfect draw.
Yeah, and you see they've got, like, one of the highlight cards on the sides. The sides. Oh, I've got it actually covered by Sliding Ankle Breaker. I'm just waiting for Rodney to play his card. He's going to form a bit first, but Brandon Jones pointed out in the chat that it was very uncommon for Dimitri to do 27 damage, 29 damage turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pause it here. We've got Silver Tomahawk. This is one of my least favorite cards ever printed. Can you read that for me?
Yeah, let's see. 3 difficulty, 3 control, 0 speed, 5. Ranged weapon, enhance. If you have fewer foundations than your opponent, this attack gains stun 2. Before your opponent makes a check to completely block this attack with a mid block, the difficulty of that check becomes 5. I've never seen a card I've hated more, and I've never actually held it in my hands.
And you've never had to play against it.
Yeah, I never had to play against it. I already hate it.
Right, and then I think it blocks high pretty well. Like, it might be +3.
+3 high, yeah.
Okay, it's got +3. All right. Yeah, they didn't give Tomahawk Man too many good blocks because Tomahawk Man's whole gimmick was that he got a +1 to his checks if he had less foundations than you.
Mm-hmm.
So I hated the whole support because it basically rewarded your opponent for not playing the game correctly. For just ignoring
playing like an animal.
Yeah, for just ignoring, like, a basic part of the game. Yeah. And then it seems even worse somehow than Gale Force Punch. Like, Gale Force Punch doesn't bother me because it's a 6 difficulty 2 check, right? Yeah, like, if you're staying low on foundations, it punishes you. This card is literally unfailable.
Yeah, it's a 3/5/5 if they try to, like, full block it.
Yeah.
Like,
and since
Bomb Man, a little faster because it has stun 2, right? So it's like theoretically has 2 more speed on it than it should because you lock them out of 2 resources.
Yes, and then you can't reduce the speed because he's changing the difficulty that you check against, which...
Yeah, he's not making his attack faster.
Yeah, which, as we all know by the Aoyama Yugo rulings, that the difficulty you check against is different.
So than the cost of the card.
Yeah, so this is what the card would look like if it worked the way that people think that card does, right? Like if it worked with the difficulty that you check against, it would look something like this.
Yeah.
So
that's a messed up card, man. I don't like that. I don't like that
Isn't it? Like if you want to full block it, all of a sudden it's a 5 speed for no good reason.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you have to check a 5. So you could block with a +3 mid block, but you still have to check a 5. It's messed up. And it's even more messed up because it's going to hit for like 8 if he doesn't block or something.
Yeah.
So he's going to flip for one of his high school crushes. We're going to fail that. He's checking really bad, by the way. Like, this is a pretty good example of bad checks. And then this is the card. So he's reading it now because Rodney just called the response. Because no one's probably ever played this fucking card against him before. And Piglet's playing one of my favorite cards of all time. This is a card I think should be reprinted in My Hero like stat. This is a card that I think fits thematically super good. I even posted a meme on the Facebook chat where it's like Deku and his fucking stand, and it works. The art would work. You could just put Deku as the little dude, All Might as the big blue dude.
Yeah.
It would work. But at this point in time, almost nobody ever played this for the response with a punch attack. I don't know if I've ever actually seen that form even used. I know I've tried to use it once and I failed. I failed the check. I was pissed. My opponent was like, you still have to commit the foundation for cost. And I was more pissed. But the block response is amazing. At the time, I believe it still had Breaker 1 as well. This card is still legal. It's been reprinted as a promo in Standard a bunch. But in Standard, recently, just having a card that only blocks isn't super good. And then the Breaker doesn't exist on it anymore. So that also... Gotcha. So basically, it's just a +1 mid that you can only block with that gains you 2 life and draws you 2 cards. And in a format where attacks are like doing 6 to 20 damage, gaining 2 just isn't a huge deal.
I gotcha. I think Chad is saying that the version they're playing at this event is the errata version.
Oh, it doesn't have? Oh, dude. Oh, no, he's saying that's the pre-errata, so...
You've got the wrong copy, kinda. Should pull up the Blood Omen one since it got changed.
I mean...
I'm not sure.
This is the real Templar. I don't know if it had break.
This is the one you love. This is the real Templar.
Yeah. This is the one I want them to reprint.
Templar is fake Templar.
If... like I said, I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. It did get a reprint in Blood Omen, and since there are Blood Omen cards being used, that would mean that it did not have Breaker at the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so... Yeah. So the chat is confirming it did not have Breaker, but Piglet's playing the real version, which has the Breaker printed on it. That's the one that should be reprinted. It deserves Breaker, goddammit.
Oh, man. That card is so we were talking about cards I never liked less. I've never liked a card more than I think Templar, just by reading it. If it has Breaker 1.
So it is contingent on the Breaker, right?
Yeah, like I actually don't mind it for the other part too. I honestly I still haven't read the second response. You said something about punches and I stopped listening.
Dealing damage, how gauche?
Yeah, I was like, what? But I heard gain 2 life, draw 2 cards.
Yes.
That's a cool effect. Like,
yeah, it was pretty rough for a while. So at the time, Breaker didn't affect the next check. And so you could block and then play a reversal, and like people could absorb the Breaker for like no effect by blocking. So with the current rules change, you know, the thing that kind of made people really annoyed, I think, with Templar was that you would draw into reversals, which is the keyword that lets you attack your opponent on their own turn. And so reversal decks were pretty consistent with this, and there were reversals that would gain life. So you'd be like all ready to kill somebody, and all of a sudden you're losing 8 life and they're gaining 4.
Yeah.
So, but this is a card you would 100% play in My Hero if it had Breaker 1.
Gorilla Blaster is one of my best friends. We've been friends for a long time. He said locals would riot if you had Templar, which is not incorrect. They already don't like the decks I play. So.
I don't know. I see the reason I would be most excited to play it in the My Hero format is because in Standard, there's actually a lot of things that cancel abilities that gain life. Or maybe not a lot, but like the one that does is like a 0 difficulty foundation, and it burns you for 2. So if you want to draw 2 cards, it'll just get canceled because this ability also gains 2. And then on top of that, I would be really excited to play it in an actual punch deck. Like there's so many good, the punch lineup is pretty good on all. Deku's got a bunch of punches on life, and it just seems like the right time to make like a promo, or it could be like Deku and Bakugo and All Might. It's like all three of their symbols. It could be all three of them, and one of them clears the card pool, and one of them cares about punches, and the other cares about blocking, I guess.
NJ Brock brought up a good point. You are technically a hop skip, in a way, you're very close to Jasco. You can go make this happen.
Yeah, you'd think, huh? Yeah. People bring up my proximity to Jasco like that has ever meant anything. We live in a digital
You're never
age.
Playing the punch response, stop the cap. Exactly. I'm never using that response. I'm only ever drawing 2 cards in game.
I would be, I'm just saying, I would be excited too if it came up. Like, we talk about a lot of cards being dual moded and being versatile, and Templar is one that we've always played just for the block response.
No, so I know what you're saying.
It'd be cool to win a game because I could play 2 more punches off of it, but the rate at which you have to play cards after a Templar response is pretty high, because you have to commit a foundation to play it no matter how good you check. So if you don't have a way to ready it, it's kind of like you added some difficulty to your turn anyway.
So it's a very fair effect. Getting towards your, like, you want it in My Hero, I actually think there's a world where it could happen where you have Bakugo, Deku, and All Might all on the card. However, the card probably only draws you 1 card and gains you 1 life, but the second response probably says after your punch or fury attack deals damage.
Yeah.
Because it's Bakugo and Deku.
Right.
I don't think I'm gonna get the draw 2, gain 2, but I think there's a world where you get this effect and it's more focused on the second response.
Yeah. Given the way that like numbers work, I wouldn't be surprised to see gain 1, draw 1.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised to see like a character that maybe has gain 1, draw 1 once per turn. Something like I would play the hell out of that character, but I don't know if we'll ever get just this back. But the Ready Set Go card is literally just a reprint of Luck. Yeah. If you go type Luck in on UVS Ultra, it's the same stats, like top to bottom. I think they changed 1 symbol on it. I think they gave it to Air for no good reason. Air doesn't deserve that.
I know we're talking about standard, but the moment I get Ready Set Go as a 5-hander, I think I'm going to concede and just not play 5-handers ever again.
When I
go first and I'm like, cool, I get to build for my 5-hander. This is going to be so cool. And then my opponent goes, just kidding, I'm baking 2.
See, when I first started playing the game, and we'll get back to the actual game. I know we paused for a while here because we went on the Templar tangent. But when I first started playing the game, I thought for sure I'd be a 5-hand size guy. I like to have a lot of health. I like to be unkillable. I like to be bulky. But it turns out that the way this game kind of works is that 5-hand size characters end up being very aggressive if they don't have like some game-winning combo. Like if they don't just have like some great punishment mechanic in their kit, which there were characters that did, but a lot of them really just get rewarded for playing offense easier because of their lack of resources, if that makes sense.
We read some 5-handers and some 4-hand, the 2 4-handers at locals and said, bro, these are some broken abilities.
Right. So like you're supposed to get good abilities to compensate for card quality. Yeah. Or like Yoshimitsu is actually a 9-hander, so it doesn't matter that he's printed 5.
How long? Okay, while we're paused and we're talking about 4s and 5s and 6s and hand size, how long did Shiva last? Because she came out DLC 2020 and I saw she was already banned.
Ooh, I want to say she lasted until, I want to say 6 months. She lasted until the next. I read
that card and I was like, that's unfair.
So the next DLC came out. And it gave her an attack that I don't know if you've seen. I'm just going to look up really quick. Mm-hmm. Which is, ooh, that's probably bad. Where is it? Diamond Crusher. So this is what really kind of broke the camel's back. So you stuff their card pool with a ton of face downs, and then she just one-shots people, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is like, she was probably fine without this attack, but then they nerfed this attack and banned her. So I don't know. I don't remember the full timeline, but she ended up a lot better than people thought she was going to be for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, she was legal up until we did a retro invitation. She was played a lot in retro because those were the only events happening. And so she had like some stronger other tools, but it was mostly just a standard deck that was... Okay. There's a lot of just standard decks like being played and winning in those events. And my favorite part is... So you've never experienced multi-symboling. And I know this is a tangent. I'm sorry, chat. We'll get back to the game, I promise. But you know about the multi-symboling now in standard, right? How they have to all have the same symbol to play a card.
Yeah.
There are... Then this is before My Hero Academia's rules came out. There were decks where people would play cards that share no symbol with your character.
Okay.
Because you could tutor them into your stage. You could add them to your stage. You could build them with effects, right? Or they do something when you discard it off the top of your deck. There's cards where you check them and they have some benefit. So Shiva can add that card to your card pool and then discard a card with her character effect, and it stays in your card pool. So when it comes back to your turn, it doesn't clear, and you can't play any cards legally. By the old rule book, you had to play a card every time, every 2 turns or something. They didn't have like the whole reveal your hand, just discard a card, etc. And then if you didn't play a card the second time, then you lose.
Oh.
So if she could draw the same card twice and stuff your card pool 2 turns in a row, you lose. And in like the 6 months or whatever she was legal, that actually happened to somebody in a tournament.
Nice. That's funny.
Yeah. And it happened to the only person I've ever heard complain about it. They're the only person who's like, this is fucked up. She shouldn't be allowed to do that. And then it happened to them.
They're like screaming at they're Chicken Littling. They're like, guys, the sky is falling, and you're all like, no, what are you talking about, man? And
yeah,
it actually happens to him, and he's like, dude, the sky is falling.
Yes. It was so like, just play cards on your own symbol, dude. And then he didn't. Which
I did it to them, and I'm not sorry. Also, on the subject of tangents, if they would have known, I think we had like an hour of talking before we recorded our video, the one on my channel. We would have not finished that video in 35 minutes if we didn't have that hour beforehand. That would have we talked like nonstop for an hour, and then then still 35 minutes, and then we almost got off topic at the end. I had to rein myself then quite a few times.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised we've been going this long, just because, you know, originally I was trying to keep it short for the unfun stuff, guys. I felt bad that we like double scheduled and everything, so it was very cool to see them.
Beach or something. They did like an in-person one where Birch and Bromley were both like at the beach or something. I was reading the announcement. I normally watch their stuff, but I'll watch the VOD this time.
Yeah, I went by the schedule. See, I tune in. I go to for the belt challenge stuff, and I just read the schedule and I had that wrong and double booked. But I'm probably gonna try and find a different day in general. But anyhow, all tangents aside, back to...
So he has blocked with Templar. He has blocked the messed up Tomahawk Man card with Templar.
Yes, we're going to get back to the game. Let me bring up our boy Templar just because. And we're going to see. So he's reading the card and he's like, that's fucked up. I got to check a 5. But then he checks a 5 anyway. So he's going to gain up to 14. He's going to draw 2 more cards. But he still only has 2 ready. And then this is another Mega Ball. So let me see if I can navigate to that. Nope, this way.
My favorite part about the Bomb Man's turns is he plays his attack and then he just slams his hand face down because he knows nothing in his hand matters until this attack finishes.
Right. And that's...
He's just like...
I'm just...
Yeah, man, no one enhances. What do you want to do?
Yeah. Yeah, he's already done his form. His attack has like 1 enhance on it that half of them he's not going to play. And then... It's like, all right, it's all up to you. Like, his cards are quite literally on the table. He's discarded cards and said, I'm going to add this damage. It's up to you to block it or not.
Yeah.
So I've got this attack on the screen. Now, this attack shouldn't make me as angry as it does, but I have lost to this attack for no good reason so many different times, and it's called Feather Shot. So Feather Shot follows the gimmick of if you have less foundations than your opponent, this attack gets multiple 2. Have you ever heard of multiple 2?
So I think I have a loose understanding. You basically, after this card's done resolving, we'll play copies of this cards that have no enhances, right? Or like no, they're just 2/4s, right?
Yes. So it'll copy the stats, and you'll see how it plays out. I'll just kind of put this on here. So you have to pay a momentum. You discard 1 momentum or more up to the rating, and then you can make that many copies. So you can almost think of it like Storm, except you discard the multiples. Now, strictly speaking, he should have put them face up in his discard pile, and then you take the top 2 cards of your discard pile, yada yada. But like, nobody gives a shit. We know what the 2 attacks are. Like, it has no gameplay relevance at the time. But theoretically, they're supposed to hit your discard. Like, one of the things I do at tournaments personally is if somebody plays multiple, I just say, can I see what they are? And they just flip them over because they go public. But so you discard 2 momentum, and you essentially get 2 copies of your attack. But it has none of the text box. It has no keywords. It has no enhances. It just has basically the numbers on it, like the speed, the damage.
Do they get affected by Bomb Man stuff, like being unblocked?
So I have to double check because I think it might say face up for Bomb Man. We're gonna pop.
Oh,
over.
it does. You're right. It says face up. Yeah. I remember now. Yeah.
However, they are 8 damage together, and Dimitri is down to 7.
Yeah, there are just 2 more 8 damage attacks.
Yeah.
Or 4 damage each. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he doesn't block the Feather Shot, it's 7, which kills him. And if he doesn't block both of the multiples, at least partially, it kills him.
Yeah.
Unless he blocks with a Templar again.
Yeah.
If he goes up to 9.
He could survive, but...
Yeah. So he's going to attempt to partial block with a +2 high, and that's fine. But he's going to take 2 and go down to 5. And now this is a masterful play. If you look at his hand, I know it's going a little fast. He's reducing the speed with High School Crush. Now Piglet is a master of the mind game. He's got no blocks in hand. Both of those cards are non-blocked. So when he went into that turn, we saw how he had the throw that didn't have a block. He built a foundation that didn't have a block, and then his last 2 cards didn't have a block. So he drew up his hand, and he had 4 out of 6 cards with no blocks. Oh, Negative Stolen didn't have a block. 5 out of 6 cards in his hand did not have a block on them. And the only one that did drew 2 cards I guess he drew 2 non-blocks off the Templar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. But I thought that was a funny end to a game, watching him kind of slow roll and play out the minus speeds.
That was funny. Yeah, he has a... That's interesting. Oh, I met Sean this weekend.
Yep, and I've actually teamed with Ein. We teamed in 2018, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we teamed at this event. We might have actually teamed at this event. That would make more sense.
Yeah, Gorilla Blaster said that he has a decent... He's from my locals that... Yeah. I think a lot of us at our locals have interest in Standard, but right now, some of the singles for some of the higher end decks have gotten a little expensive for us to want to test. I know we can Tabletop Simulator. But I have also offered to buy every single person at my local's Tabletop Simulator to play it from home, and they just won't do it. So.
Yeah, I bought my buddy Tabletop Simulator back in 2020, and he hits me up every other night. He got a little sick, so it hasn't been recently, but he was hitting me up pretty much every night to play on tabletop, and that felt really good to finally get the hooks in somebody.
Yeah.
So that's all the game I'm gonna have. We're almost at 2 hours. I think that's a pretty good first stream.
Did pretty good. I think we did all right.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's any Where's the next thing that happens here? Because yeah, they get a. If you want to go check it out after the stream concludes, they actually have Matthew Curtis Turner come on. He does a great interview. He talks about the game way more in depth than I ever could. Right? I didn't live it. I didn't build the decks. I didn't play it. So there's a whole nother game to watch that it doesn't necessarily play out all the same way. So if you guys want to go check that out, that's on the official Jasco Games YouTube channel. It's only got 200 views, which is kind of sad, but that's pretty good for old UFS numbers, all things, truth be told.
Yeah.
But so that's where you guys can check that out. Where can they check you out, Andrew?
So I am at Go Beyond Gaming on YouTube. I'm currently right now I'm in the middle of doing kit reviews, just like thinking about the kits in and of themselves of each character. And then I'm also doing a giveaway, that first video there, where if you're subscribed to the channel and you leave a comment about what you're most excited about for set 2, I'm giving away up to like 3 boxes of Crimson Rampage. Once I hit 100 subs, we'll be at 2 boxes. We're already at 1 box to give away.
Ooh,
so
okay.
Once we're at 100, we will be giving away boxes of Crimson Rampage. Or we're already giving away 1 every increment of 50.
Increments of 50. So it's for every 50 comments? What exactly is it?
Every 50 subscribers. So
every
if I hit
50
150,
subscribers.
I'll be giving away 3 boxes, half a case.
All right. Well, that is awesome. Honestly, that is actually really cool. I think giveaways are like one of the coolest aspects of community. It's kind of weird to say, like, basically, I would love to do giveaways as much as possible, but it's not always the smartest business decision.
I'm doing this one just because, like, I'm so amped for set 2, man. I can't say any more about it. Like, I'm so excited because there's so many cool things, and I love the game. Like, I had a ton of fun in Omaha, and man, that's a crazy pause screen. My eye is half shut.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also you can see on there, Sam and I did a video about a month ago talking about set 1 in review, where it was like my perspective versus his perspective. So there's a lot of cool stuff on there. I'm now that I've gone to Omaha, I've kind of gotten reinvigorated to get these videos out. Yeah, there are the rules to the giveaway there on the side. And then also on Discord, I'm on the My Hero Discord a lot. It's just Andrew in all caps. With the logo next to my name. So
I'm not gonna lie, I've gotten you confused with other Andrews before.
Yeah, I went all caps Andrew. So the whole thing about YouTube, for me, I know I'm not gonna tangent here, but real quick is I was kind of doing it for me, and I didn't want to like over advertise myself, so I didn't want the name of my Discord account to be my YouTube channel.
Right.
Ooh, we went up a subscriber. Thanks everybody.
It was me.
So yeah, I tried to do kind of more chill. Like, I don't want to say I'm low energy, but I might be low energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm all caps Andrew. So I don't want to say I'm low energy, but I might be a little low energy. But I wanted to do kind of a calmer, my take on cards, sort of in a vacuum, and then my like deck profiles and things that I do. Because I had some people on Discord when we talk about our locals, which can get anywhere from 8 to 16 people, asking like what I was playing, and I thought it would be cool to get that stuff out there. And I felt like we really needed, with Universe's content in general, I felt like there was a lot of stuff geared towards players who had been playing the game for like 5, 6, 10 years, and there wasn't a ton that was geared towards someone who had just hopped in. So I'm done ranting about myself now.
No, please go ahead. No, it's super cool, because I think the most important thing is there's a different. So when I started, I wanted to have like a different niche, because the only real consistent content creation was Tamron Cardwell streaming, which was almost exclusively for new players, or so much of it is like geared towards a learning process, right? Which I'm not going to say like I'm above it, but I'm a bad learner, so that's not like my go-to content is educational. And so I thought, there's just nobody doing like funny videos, and there's so many funny games. Like, one of the reasons I wanted to show that game, because I think the fact that he drew 5 out of 7 cards, or like
no blocks.
yeah, 6 out of 8 cards were no blocks is hilarious to me. Like, and so it's very true that like when I first started, My Hero hadn't come out yet. It wasn't like, I don't even think that there was like a release date yet. And I didn't really anticipate the growth or like the style of content that people really wanted to see. Because I don't know, have you ever watched like my really old videos it's like, it's bad because it's not even just old UFS. It's like specifically retro format.
I've seen
it's
a
like,
few of them where you do a lot of like where you cut in sound effects and things.
Yeah. So like the first ones are all 10 minutes because they're like multiple matches. It's all based in like fighting game stuff that I really enjoyed. But like the format was just not... it wasn't that applicable, right? Like it just wasn't... It's not... First of all, like this content is not something that any new player can really just click on and watch and understand. Even my newer stuff... the actual like edited gameplay stuff, I think the jokes probably require some level of being involved in the community. But I do think it's really important that we have content creators for like different speeds and like different personalities, right?
So yeah, I get that. Like, so when you were saying Tam was like the new player content creator, I think the natural progression of someone who does content for newer players is your audience grows with you.
Yes.
So eventually, like, when I got in, yeah, Tam was doing a lot of, like, compared to other channels, it was still new player friendly, but there were still things he was talking about where I was like, I don't know what any of this means. And so
yeah,
I don't even want to say that, like, I'm totally trying to gear myself towards new players. I want to say that, like, I think there's a lot of people who are coming in from other games, whether it's people who are unhappy with Bandai games. I know there's a lot of people from that, whether it's people who are just kind of burnt out on Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever it is. And they are competitive people by nature, but they may not like want to be signing up for online webcam events, or they don't want to be traveling to Omaha, or they just want to be the best player at their locals.
Right. And for a lot of people, like, so when I look for Magic the Gathering or like Yu-Gi-Oh decks, it's because I don't know how to build decks in those games. And I just want something functional, right? Like, I just want something, like, usually I want to pick a color, or I want to pick an archetype, or I just want to pick something, and I just want to run with it and go. And it's been hard to see that from the other side because I dabble so casually in the other games. And when I come over to, My Hero or Universes or whatever, like, especially in My Hero, there's so few cards that are just outright bad. Like, people say don't play In Danger all the time, and I 100% agree, especially now that I know Keen Observation has a +2 high block and not a +3. I thought it was a +3 for a long time. But, like, In Danger has a use. It is specifically actually more useful than some foundations in some situations, right? Like,
it's really good when you're in danger.
Yeah. But but it's not strictly worse than release. It's just mostly worse than release.
Yeah.
It's not strictly worse than a lot of cards where like Magic will literally print a 4 difficulty kill spell and a 2 difficulty kill spell directly fucking next to each other in the same pack.
Yeah.
The 2 cost kill spell might say it doesn't kill demons or angels, or whatever.
Or that you take a damage or something, or it deals 2 to you, or that you lose a life, or...
Yeah, and recently they've just been doing it where it's like it can be 2 or 4. Everything's kicker. So when it's been difficult to kind of understand where other people are coming from with that. So I'm planning to do more deck profiles in the future because when I look at my views, I'm like amazed personally. Because what I want is funny meme content. That's why I started making it. I was like, no one's doing this. And it's not easy necessarily, but like it's not like our game isn't funny. It's not like you can't apply memes to it.
What amazes me about the My Hero content creation, now that we're kind of like done with the podcast aspect, we're just kind of talking on stream, is if you go back to my channel, the people really want to watch deck profiles. Like, the stuff I do where it's just like talking and those do well with people who want to play the game a lot and they're from Discord or whatever. But if you go towards just like the Deku deck profile where it's like 300 plus, or like those are a lot for me, right? I'm happy when I hit 50 on a video.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the most views I got was like the tier list actually hit 1K right when the game first dropped, which is pretty cool. And
tier list, I tried to save you from yourself on our video where I was like, somebody said Kirishima might not be very good.
Look, I didn't put Suyu in C tier. Where's Suyu now? Where is she at now on the tier list, huh?
Yeah.
She's where I put her. I'm from the future, all right?
I tried to save you from yourself.
But so, at the time too, Kirishima didn't get to mulligan twice.
Yeah, true. He did not get to take his whole hand, and however, he also did get to go second and play Hardened Jab.
Yeah, true. So there's so like the early stuff is a lot of views just from an influx of new players, but I'm really surprised at how many really just want like the deck profile. They just want like a combo to play. They just want like one aspect of a game, where to me, I'm like terrified of that stuff. Like I pick up other people's decks to play them, to learn like how they play and like to learn the strengths and weaknesses of a deck. But like copying other people's play styles is so difficult. And I'm a bad deck builder. I do generally do better with other people's decks than my own. But at the same time, I still have to match my style up. Like I can't play a super aggro Froppy, or I can't play like a huge attack lineup Tokoyami. Like those just don't gel with me.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I that's why I'm so excited for set 2, because by the time I had finally decided I was comfortable and ready to make content, a lot of the stuff from set 1 had already dried up. Like I didn't make my first video till January 18th or something.
Mm-hmm.
So like by the time I was ready and like, okay, I'm gonna do this, it's gonna be something I do either once a week, twice a week, whatever it was. The budget deck profiles, there was already somebody doing budget deck profiles for everyone. So I'm really excited for set 2 to like be there at the burst of content right when set 2 comes out.
Yeah, Chris Goldsmith actually just posted for the first time in a long time. He's a Vegas local. I don't think he's gotten to play too much, which is sad, because Chris Goldiefish, I believe, on YouTube. I forget exactly. I should be able to find it, but Chris Goldsmith is one of the most, I would say, unique deck builders from the Vegas group. Like, it's actually kind of weird how many. I don't know if this is the right one. I'll find it. I'll post a link in the YouTube upload for this. But Goldiefish, he has always amazed me at how functional, I should stop saying functional, how functional he can make certain characters look. Like, he's not necessarily making like tournament takedown deck lists, and he's almost never making like a budget doesn't matter like $600 deck list. But he'll show up at a locals and play like a character you've never seen played before and mill you out just like with random effects. Like random, like you make a control check effects.
Yeah. It's I think I actually am subbed to him on my like personal channel, like my personal one, because he was posting some cool stuff, and I liked how his videos were like short, sweet, and to the point. They were like 5 or 6 minutes long.
Yeah, Goldiefish, there it is. Yeah, I'm like super jealous. He's got more subscribers than me, and it's like 100% from like just actually putting out the content that people care about.
Yeah.
Like he literally
really
was just
like deck profiles in this game.
Yeah, he was literally just consistently making deck profiles and not spending 10,000 hours making shitty memes.
Some videos that I do, like the kit review ones, I'm literally just like I'm making them, and I'm making them as the best I can, but they're also me trying to fill space until I get to make set 2 deck profiles with physical cards.
Yeah. I'm gonna actually. It's funny. Oh, go ahead.
I just saw what you put in chat asking what content do they want to see the most. It's funny because I think a lot of the people that you're gonna have here, because a lot of them were talking about standard, they're going to want to hear like more discussion based content, like how we've done the two things.
Yeah, and I got a bunch of the old hits because I posted in the Universes chat that we were gonna watch old World Championship videos.
Yeah.
So I think I got a couple of people specifically from that too. So it's been tough for me because it's so hard for me to really appreciate My Hero by itself without relating to it like all the things I love about universes in general. And so that always like strays off the beaten path. But even today, I thought it was really important to include My Hero content, talking about you at the Omaha Provisional and, our cards that we're most excited for, just because that is like the way the game is growing, right? Like I do want to get eyes on the content, but I would really love to just be able to make content for both. And it takes so much time, man.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, I have some plans set up. I want to do another. I'm hoping that maybe to do some more of that like old player, new player, like we just did, but like geared towards My Hero. But I kind of like ran out of topics already. I did the one topic, and I was like, I don't know. Maybe doing it with set two, like doing it now with set two, just like, hey, what are the 5 cards you think are the best cards and the 5 cards you think are the worst cards from set 2, and then in like 4 months or however long it takes for us to get set 3, doing the same video but like, hey, like the same video you and I did, like what were we right about, what were we wrong about? So
I did start doing top 5 lists because I'm like someone's got to do them.
Yeah.
Pretty soon. Next on my list is I'm actually gonna make the I don't know what I'm going to call it. Right now, the working title in my head is the speculative deculative profiles, where it's going to be like the preset deck profile where we've seen, with all the cards spoiled, I'm going to make decks for people to play test. So that way, when the cards come out, they know what to buy, they know what to trade for. You have a better idea of what singles you're going to be looking for, stuff like that.
I thought about doing a cards I'm going to be buying, but here's the issue: I'm buying 2 cases and then just owning a playset of everything.
Yeah, I saw an ad to own a master playset from Crimson Rampage for like $300, and I just I didn't recognize the store before, so it just seemed too good to be true.
It was super tempting. I almost bid on that because like. But I also like having all the extra commons and uncommons and rares so that I can give them to local players like who aren't going to be buying this as much product as I am because I have a problem.
Yeah, see, I kind of have the opposite problem. Like, personally, I hate having a huge collection, and being broke as fuck has helped me not have a huge collection. But, like, I get, like, really bad anxiety if I don't use all the cards. Like, at one point I had a huge long box, and I had just finally started to have cards that were rotated, cards that were coming out that were like really power creeping. Again, there was no strictly worse versions, but there was starting to be a lot of cards you just don't see play anymore, which was kind of different to the My Hero format. And it got like one of the main reasons I think I wanted to take a break, I sold my collection to come back later, was just having like this huge box of cards to go through and just going, man, which of these do I even use? Like it felt like a waste, kind of.
Yeah. I think with like having the playset of My Hero, I try to make it a point to play a different deck every week at locals. So I have probably played every single card in the set at least for 4 rounds,
including Endanger.
Yes, I actually had Endanger in my All Might 2 deck, and then in retrospect, I should have not been playing that card. I should have been playing Keen Observation, even if I couldn't activate it.
I'll always stick up for it the exact one time that it saved me from a Recipro Burst, because I blew up 3 of them to put it back down to printed speed. But other than that, it's pretty bad, and it's going to get... Anybody who's playing it when the next set comes out, I'm pretty sure is gonna find something better.
Yeah, it's a... Yeah, I'm just for content, like I'm gonna do for set 2. I'm probably gonna do 2 box opening videos. I don't really like doing them. I think I also don't really like watching them, but I know a lot of people do. So I will probably do 2 box opening videos and try and get those out on like day 1 and 2 of like May 6th and May 7th.
Gotcha.
and then I might stream if I can get the setup done. The goal is to invite everyone up to the store maybe at midnight or maybe really early in the morning on Thursday, and then stream us all opening our stuff, because I have people who are buying like several cases, and so to get a stream set up in the store, maybe to show us all just opening all our stuff, and you can hear someone getting hyped when they open like an XSR or if they open like a cool XR or something. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that set up.
I can dig that a lot. My goal, like my vision for the long term, before My Hero came out, was I was hoping to have a stream set up at weeklies, and if we got enough people to just do commentary over it, which has been really tough because like I love to play. I don't really want to do commentary. Like if I had the choice, I feel like I'm a player first. But as far as like making the actual content for the game, you know, there's only so many people doing that. And to me, the biggest goal would be to actually just have a live streamed weekly tournament with commentary that people can tune into, you know, and see games just being played every week. Like, that's a big thing. It's kind of a big thing for like fighting games, which is like the other communities that, you know, I got me into the fighting game card game, right? So that's something I would really love to see. Unfortunately, logistics being what they are, like that's not an easy thing to accomplish. And, you know, our play groups aren't the like the store that we play at is very crowded. There's just like lots of people, so it'd be tough to get a spot. They got their own stream set up to stream their own games, so you know things are in motion that we might get there.
Yeah, I could theoretically set up a stream for locals, but it would require people being okay going into a completely different room with no other interaction, like in the back of the store. Because Wednesdays we have like board games going. There's like Yu-Gi-Oh play testing. Like a lot of our competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players show up and do something. There's I think our Magic players are starting to set up Pioneer on Wednesdays as well. So like I'd have to be like, all right, you guys are gonna go into this office and by yourself, don't touch anything, play cards on stream.
One-on-one fight to the death with people watching.
Like, I want to get back to if my iPhone, I think I got the problem fixed, was corrupting a lot of gameplay videos. So like I think I have that fixed. The only thing is I'd like to buy another like arm thing. I have my webcam on this arm thing, but it's such a pain to have to disconnect it and take it to locals and then reset up my webcam and reset up my microphone. So
yeah, I can dig that.
Yeah, we do have a board game day. We have like on Wednesdays at our store. They get anywhere from 6 to 20 people for board games.
Man, I'm trying to start a casual commander group on TTS.
Ooh, that sounds fun. How casual?
I'm trying to. I've been bothering UVS players, but they all have different like power levels. People's schedules don't work. You know, got to catch everybody at the right time. But yeah, I would love to just have something really regular. I thought with the new D&D decks coming out, just buying a set of them. I'm getting off topic. We should talk about UVS. And I do have to wrap this up. We've been here for over 2 hours. I want to thank all of you in the chat for checking it out, for hitting follow if you followed to help me get to affiliate or whatever. I have no clue where this is going to lead us. Hopefully I'll one day get my fucking lighting fixed for this green screen. I know my lighting is fucking awful, but we're working on it. I hope to see you guys for another orange card, blue card. Please say thank you to my guest, Andrew Holder. Point to the right direction. From Go Beyond Gaming. Plug your YouTube one more time.
Go Beyond Gaming on YouTube.
Oh, it's not like I guess it's just youtube.com/the channel name these days.
No, you have to have like X number of subs to get to do that, and I'm not there yet. Mine is a bunch of nonsense.
Oh, interesting. Okay, fair enough.
I think, hold on, give me a second and I will put it in the chat.
Yeah, link it in the chat, please. Everybody go check out his content. Go check out the video we did together. I always have a lot of fun whenever we hang out, whenever we're talking. I'm pointing to this side because this is like where the content is on my other screen. I'm not pointing at... Yeah. It looks like I'm pointing at nothing. But anyway, thank you guys for checking it out. I hope to collaborate with you again soon, Andrew.
Cool, me too. Thanks, man.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to the chat? You get the last word.
No, just thanks for coming out, and be sure you're subscribed to Sam. Follow him on Twitch. I hope to be back on here soon. I know Sam's plan is to have someone different every week, but hopefully I'll be back sooner rather than later. It was a lot of fun.
All right. I'll see you all next time.